There is a universal friction we all experience when we sit down to build.
Oh, absolutely.
You get completely in the zone, the ideas are flowing perfectly, but instead of actually building, you're forced to context switch.
Yeah, the worst.
You jump over to a terminal window, then you flip to a browser tab to read some documentation.
Right.
Then you tab over to a separate chat box, 2-sec silence. It completely fractures your flow state. We've spent decades adapting our brains to how computers organize information.
Which is pretty unnatural, honestly.
It is. So what if your entire digital workspace lived inside one intelligent window?
That is the holy grail, isn't it?
Yeah.
We leak so much cognitive energy just shuttling context between different apps. Our brains really aren't wired for that kind of constant switching.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're exploring the new Claude Code desktop app.
Yeah, and we are basing this on the architect's manual.
But we aren't just going to read you a feature list today. We're exploring a fundamental shift in how builders operate. We're looking at how this app moves away from being a simple chat box. It acts more like a unified workshop.
Yes.
We're going to break down the philosophy behind plan mode. We'll look at the future of work through automated routines. And we'll honestly examine where the illusion breaks down.
It's a massive behavioral shift.
Yeah.
I'm really eager to unpack the psychology here, how this tool actually changes our daily workflows.
Let's start with the physical architecture of this new space. To understand how the AI operates differently here, we have to look at the layout.
Right.
The manual highlights 3 specific tabs at the top: Chat, .Cowork, and Code. Clicking that Code tab opens a dark, focused workspace.
It immediately sets a different tone. It feels like a serious developer environment. It certainly doesn't feel like a conversational chatbot anymore.
Yeah.
You're presented with this brilliant 3-pane layout.
So on the far left, you have mission control. That's where your project lists and active sessions live. Then the middle column is your active session. That holds your chat thread and your input box. And the right side is this flexible zone for extra panes.
That right pane is where the magic happens. You can open a preview pane to see your app running, or a plan view to see architecture,
Right.
or a diff view to see exact code changes.
And the layout relies heavily on drag and drop. It's about reducing cognitive load. If you're reviewing a massive code refactor, you don't want to squint at a tiny box.
Exactly. You just grab that diff view and drag it to take up the whole screen.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're tweaking user interface colors. You can drag the live preview right next to the chat. It completely eliminates that endless alt-tabbing we're all so used to doing.
The analogy in the original manual didn't quite capture the mechanism for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Working with old AI web chats felt like working at a tiny, cluttered desk.
Right.
But this new layout, it feels more like stacking Lego blocks of data on a massive, multi-room factory floor.
Oh, I like that.
Because with the old web chats, the AI overheard every single conversation. It would hallucinate code from a marketing site you asked about 3 days ago.
Yeah, that cross-contamination is incredibly frustrating.
So this new layout uses a project-first model. The AI is placed in a soundproof room. It only has access to the specific blueprints you slide under the door. Work is strictly separated by folders.
And that folder boundary is enforced mechanically. It uses something called Git work trees underneath the hood.
Let's define that jargon really quickly.
Sure.
A Git work tree is basically a way to work on different parts of code at once.
That's spot on. Agent A can be completely rewriting your payment module. At the exact same moment, Agent B is writing unit tests for your user login.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't step on each other's toes at all.
So the workspace is organized, but an empty room doesn't write software. Why is this isolated folder-based context such a massive game changer compared to the old chat threads?
Because language models are highly susceptible to noise. When you isolate the context to a single folder, the AI's attention mechanism becomes hyper-focused. It doesn't have to guess which version of a file you care about.
So clean folders mean the AI never pulls context from the wrong project.
It's a hard, impenetrable boundary.
So the physical space is set, but how do we actually breathe life into it? The first decision a user makes actually dictates the AI's entire operating boundary.
Right, and you have to set the foundation properly. This requires a fresh installation of the desktop app. And, crucially, it requires a Claude Pro subscription.
The manual mentions the free tier is mostly just for testing the visual layout.
Yeah, because the AI is reading your entire project folder, the context window fills up immediately. You'll hit the free limits in minutes. You really need the Pro plan for this workflow.
Let's pause and talk about the economics of that. The Pro plan is roughly $20 a month. According to the source, that gives you about 44,000 tokens per 5-hour Watto. That translates to anywhere from 10 to 40 prompts. But I have to push back a bit here. That scarcity fundamentally changes the relationship, doesn't it? 44,000 tokens can run out fast on heavy code bases. Users really need to be strategic.
Oh, it absolutely does. You can't just spam the AI with lazy, half-baked thoughts anymore. You have to treat every single prompt like an expensive managerial directive.
Which means choosing your operating environment carefully. When you boot up a session, you get 3 choices: local, remote, or SSH.
Right.
Let's explore the implications of those choices.
Local is your speed layer. It runs directly on your local machine and reads your file system natively. It skips the delays of pushing and pulling from a cloud repository.
Okay.
It's incredibly fast for rapid iteration.
The manual notes Windows users need Git installed for that, while Macs have it natively. What about the remote environment?
Remote operates completely differently. It runs safely on Anthropic's cloud infrastructure. The brilliant part is that it survives even if you close your laptop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's much safer for delicate client projects because changes are stored in a dedicated branch with a full history.
And SSH is the third option.
SSH just allows the session to tunnel into a remote server that you control. It's great for folks managing their own bare metal hardware.
So we have our environment. Next is the model selection. We have Claude Sonnet 4.6 and Claude Opus 4.7.
Think of Sonnet as your highly caffeinated junior developer. It's fast, it's great for daily tasks, simple UI changes, and quick bug fixes.
And Opus.
Opus is your lead architect. You bring in Opus for deep reasoning, complex database migrations, or massive architectural shifts.
There's also an effort selector. You can choose low, medium, high, or auto.
They simplified that nicely. Low effort means the agent moves quickly and doesn't overthink small tweaks.
Yeah.
High effort forces the model into a deeper chain of thought process before it touches a single line of code.
But the real leverage seems to be hidden. There's a subtle menu inside the input box that a lot of people overlook.
Oh, the context menu.
Yeah.
It is the nerve center of the whole application. You click that little icon, and a massive set of tools opens up.
You can inject specific reference files. You can pull live GitHub issues directly into the AI's working memory.
And you have connectors. You can seamlessly link the session to your Gmail, your Slack channels, or your Notion workspaces.
Right.
You also access your skills from that menu. And the transcript mode, where you can toggle between verbose, normal, or summary.
It's an incredible amount of power right at the cursor. So for someone starting a brand new project this afternoon, how should they choose between local and remote environments?
I always recommend starting local. You want that tight, immediate feedback loop when you're initially prototyping. Once the foundational architecture is stable, you shift the session to remote. That protects the code base with a continuous cloud history.
Local for speed and testing, remote for safe, continuous cloud history.
Exactly right.
So we've established that tokens are precious. We can't afford sloppy, meandering mistakes. 2 sex islands. Jumping straight into coding is usually what causes those expensive errors. There is a specific feature designed to purposely slow the AI down.
Plan mode. I genuinely believe it's the most profoundly undervalued feature in the entire ecosystem.
To understand plan mode, we first have to look at the permission states. The default state is ask permissions.
Right.
It's incredibly safe, but painfully slow. The AI pauses to ask your permission before every single file edit.
Then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, auto-accept edits. The agent runs wild. It writes files, edits code, and executes terminal commands freely.
Yeah.
It only pauses for highly destructive actions, like deleting a directory.
And sitting outside of both of those is plan mode.
Plan mode forces the AI to put its hands behind its back. It drafts a highly detailed, comprehensive roadmap and pure markdown.
Right.
You get structured headings, you get code blocks.
Yeah.
But it absolutely refuses to write project code immediately.
The manual provides a brilliant example of this constraint in action. You tell the agent you want to build an on-chain token watchlist application. But before it writes anything, you command it to ask you 5 highly targeted questions about scope, auth, and the tech stack.
I love that workflow. You force the AI to interrogate you. It asks about your target audience. It asks about your preferred database structure.
And the incredible part is, the AI actually stops and waits for your answers.
It does. It sits there patiently. Once you answer, it generates a meticulous, step-by-step build plan. It outlines the precise file structure, the API endpoints, and the UI components. It forces alignment before a single token is wasted on bad code.
I'll make a vulnerable admission right here. Beat. I still wrestle with prompt drift myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I get so impatient when I try to skip the planning phase. I see that blinking cursor, and I just want the dopamine hit of watching code generate on the screen.
We are all guilty of that. We've been conditioned by standard chatbots to expect instant gratification. But skipping plan mode on a fresh build is a devastating trap. You inevitably spend 3 times as many tokens untangling a spaghetti code mess 3 hours later.
You review the draft in the dedicated plan pane. You spot the missing logic, you correct it. Only then do you switch the permissions to accept edits.
It's the ultimate preventative measure. But to be fair, you shouldn't use it for everything.
Right. The manual notes that plan mode is gold for new builds, but it's massive overkill for fixing a simple CSS alignment issue or a tiny bug.
If you just need a button move 5 pixels to the left, use auto accept edits. Feed the agent the exact file name and the exact line number. Don't overcomplicate small chores.
That does make me wonder about the psychological friction. Does forcing yourself into plan mode kill the momentum of rapid prototyping?
It definitely feels slower in the first 15 minutes, but it is exponentially faster by hour 3. The AI catches fatal architectural flaws before they're ever coded into existence.
Plan mode actually saves hours by preventing massive code rewrites later.
Measure twice, cut once. It's timeless advice. Sponsor.
So the workspace is set. The architectural plan is rock solid. But the execution phase is where this tool breaks out of being just a fancy text editor. This brings us to the new automation capabilities.
Right.
Routines and skills.
Routines are where we start seeing the future of software development. Anthropic rolled these out on April 14, 2026 as a research preview.
Let's unpack what a routine actually is.
At its core, a routine is a cloud-based configuration that runs automatically. It bundles together a specific prompt, a target repository, and the necessary API connectors. And crucially, it runs completely autonomously on Anthropic's cloud.
Which means your laptop can be closed and stored in your backpack.
Exactly. It operates entirely independently of your local hardware.
The manual details 3 specific ways to trigger these routines. Let's walk through them. The first is schedule triggers.
These use standard cron expressions. You can configure a routine to run every night at midnight or every Monday morning. Anthropic currently caps the frequency at once per hour to manage compute loads.
The second trigger is what really caught my eye, API triggers. Every single routine is assigned its own unique HTTP endpoint.
Right. You just set a simple POST request with an authentication token, and the AI session boots up in the cloud.
Wow. Imagine wiring that API trigger directly up to your deploy hooks. You could literally have the AI review your code while you sleep.
It's mind-blowing. You literally wake up to a fully vetted, perfectly documented pull request. It's essentially a tireless junior engineer working the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
And that perfectly segues into the third trigger type, GitHub triggers.
The AI listens to the repository's heartbeat.
Yes. It natively subscribes to specific repository events. If someone opens a new pull request or cuts a new release, the routine automatically springs into action.
Wow.
You just have to authorize the Claude GitHub app first.
The source material gives a brilliantly practical example of a schedule trigger, the 7 a.m. daily morning brief.
It's such a clever quality of life hack. Every weekday morning at exactly 7 a.m., the routine quietly spins up. It uses the Gmail connector to read your inbox.
Okay.
It scans for urgent deadlines or missed payments. Then it reads your Google Calendar for the day.
Without you touching a single key.
Right. It synthesizes all that chaotic information into a clean, structured markdown document. Finally, it uses the Slack connector to drop that brief directly into your private channel before you even wake up.
That's a beautiful example of cross-platform orchestration. But we also need to examine skills, which operate a bit differently.
Skills are what transform Claude Code from a coding assistant into a customizable work platform. A skill is essentially a deeply ingrained, reusable set of instructions loaded on demand.
The manual suggests creating a product-led PRAD skill. When you invoke it, the AI instantly assumes the persona of a rigorous product manager. It automatically asks 7 specific questions about user pain points, demographics, and technical constraints.
So instead of copying and pasting that massive prompt from a Notes app every single time you have an idea, you just type a /command. Every new project gets the exact same rigorous treatment.
You can load these skills via a zip file or by pasting a terminal command, or even using skills.Exe.
Yeah, it gives your tool stack immense flexibility. You just have to be careful not to install dozens of them at once, or they start competing for the model's attention.
This raises an interesting operational question. How do these native skills actually differ from just keeping a Notion document full of your favorite copy-paste prompts?
A Notion document is just dead text. A skill is a living, active tool. When you invoke a skill, it natively configures the agent's internal parameters and runs its built-in/commands automatically within the session's memory.
Skills are native, reusable AI tools that automatically run their built-in/commands.
They literally become extensions of the agent's brain.
It sounds like a deeply seductive, perfect system, but to actually master it, we have to look past the marketing. We have to understand the underlying mental model, and we have to be brutally honest about where the illusion currently breaks down.
The underlying mental model is the skeleton key to this whole app. It breaks down into three very simple components: context, agents, outputs.
Let's explore those. Context is simply the folder.
Right. But it's not just storage. The folder is the AI's short-term memory.
Yeah.
It holds your code base, sure, but it should also hold reference PDFs, brand guidelines, and old architecture docs. The richer the soil in that folder, the better the AI's output.
The manual calls out a very specific, widespread mistake people make regarding context.
Staring at a completely empty folder and typing a massive 500-word prompt, the agent has absolutely zero grounding. You have to invert that behavior. Fill the folder with dense context first.
Right.
Then write a very short, highly focused prompt. Let the agent connect the dots.
The second pillar is agents. And an agent is not just the underlying language model.
That's a crucial distinction. An agent is Claude Opus combined with your specific permission settings, your active skills, and your enabled connectors. You can run the exact same underlying model with different rule sets, and you will get wildly different behaviors.
And the final pillar is outputs. Code is the obvious answer here.
But the output can be anything now. It can be a fully formatted markdown brief. It can be a visual Canva design. It can be a complex calendar invite. The AI seamlessly moves across mediums without ever leaving that single window.
You really start treating the interface like a small, highly capable team. But let's look the rough edges. The manual is surprisingly candid about what still feels clunky or broken.
The most glaring omission is the lack of a proper file viewer. There is no native file tree panel inside the application yet.
Which is maddening if you're a visual thinker. You can't just click folders to see how the project is structured. You have to ask the AI to print out the directory structure.
So for now, you end up keeping standard VS Code open on a second monitor just to maintain your spatial awareness of the project.
I have to thoughtfully challenge this all-in-one workspace claim then.
Oh.
If a builder still needs VS Code open to see their files, and they still need Chrome DevTools open to debug their CSS, then this isn't truly a single window workspace. It's just a prettier terminal.
I see why it feels that way. But I think you're looking at the wrong layer of abstraction. Claude Code isn't trying to replace your IDE's file explorer. It's trying to replace your hands on the keyboard. Think of it like a manager's control room. You don't need to hold the wrench if you're directing the mechanic.
That's a fascinating reframe. The preview console is another area that feels a bit hollow.
It is very lightweight. You only get basic session logs. If you hit a complex front-end bug, the internal preview won't give you the deep inspection tools you need. You still have to open the local server in a real browser.
And the cloud sandboxes have their own friction. They feel sluggish on that initial boot.
It can take a solid minute or two to spin up a fresh GitHub branch sandbox in the cloud. That's why local is so crucial for the fast, messy iteration phase.
So, knowing all these intricate mechanics, the folder rules, the token limits, the missing file trees, how should users handle the situation when the AI inevitably generates a terrible output, rather than just blaming the model's intelligence?
You have to audit the environment you built for it. Did you fail to provide a key reference document in the folder? Are your permission rules too restrictive? The model itself is incredibly capable. The failure is almost always in the managerial setup.
Don't blame the model. Fix your folder context or adjust the permission rules.
You are the orchestrator now. You have to manage the workspace.
Let's pull all these threads together. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground. For someone listening right now, what is the ultimate takeaway?
The builders who are moving incredibly fast right now are combining three specific things: plan mode, custom skills, and cloud routines. That specific formula is what separates the fast builders from the slow ones.
Moving from a chat box mentality to treating the app like a small managed team that ships work for you.
It's a complete paradigm shift. It requires patience to learn, but the compounding returns on your time are massive.
So here's our call to action for you. Pick one tiny low-stakes project today. Open the app, create a strictly isolated folder, boot up a session in plan mode, and write your first architectural prompt.
Just get one small win. The initial friction disappears very quickly.
2 sec silence. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. We started this deep dive talking about the universal frustration of context switching, the deep desire for one intelligent window that understands our intent. We've just explored how Claude Code now handles the initial project planning.
Right.
It writes the PRDs, it executes the raw code, it even summarizes its own results on Slack for you while you sleep. Beat. If the AI is handling the planning, the execution, and the reporting, well, what exactly is the human's core role in the software loop of 2027?
That is a real question we're all going to have to answer. Out to your own music.